Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. This is not really a Guild War RTA mashup, as Guild War is super stale in terms of the defense teams. I didn't feel that this video I wanted to include any Guild War fights. Since I'm doing a lot more RTA this season, I was thinking, hey, maybe we just stick to that. So I'm in Champion now and doing the double pre-bans. If you have watched my YouTube videos in chronology, I had a pretty informative session with Tatsuni, RTA coaching. That video is on YouTube. I've heard a lot of the feedback and I do appreciate that, guys, and so do expect a bit more of those kind of videos in the future. While these ones, I'm just going to highlight some heroes that I've used or some interesting fights, just commentating on them. So Kayron had been lost for quite a while, and we've been seeing some people use Kayron, and in specific scenarios he can really work. So in this one, I drafted Kayron, and he hits really hard. So this Kayron is on speed set, and it has a 5k attack and 290 crit damage. You'll probably see him twice, I believe, in this entire montage. I will say though that for this fight specifically, he actually could have easily won, but he did a different or a non-optimized move, in my opinion, in this turn. So I think he could have honestly tried to soul burn and taken the risk, and soul burn the or not soul burn, but yeah, soul burn the Amelia to try to stun her. I mean, he should have found out that the resistance on her is quite low, as she did get a double debuff from the Payra. But now that Kayron doesn't have unbuffable, it is pretty safe that I can still proc the Immortal when I get it. Yeah, he could have went for a D-spell on the Kayron there too, I guess, because he had full attack buff. So really, Rimuru and Kayron are more or less in the same place. But actually, in these fights, in this video specifically, I haven't really appropriated all of Tatsuni's coaching, which honestly, so far, not recorded in this video, but so far those fights are getting pretty consistent. That will be showcased in a future video. I already have it edited, I just haven't voiced over. But the pre-ban is Hwayoung there, so it's quite interesting. I missed the kill here, and this is most likely a lifesteal Surmia. Lifesteal Lionheart Surmia is best in slot, so you must have it. But the defense break is greater than the defense buff, so her damage is much lower than it could have been. It should have wiped my my Amelia actually on the S3 alone. So this is looking pretty grim. They do have Payra as a DP, damage mitigation, but again, like I said, the Kayron is built like full damage. So I was considering here whether to go S3, but there's not really much to extend because I don't have immunity. So it was just easier just to go for the S1 there, get the full team wipe. This guy, I think, yeah, he did a little bow as well. Very classy. Thank you, Chrono Wolf. And we're just cutting right to the next game, as a lot of the feedback is saying that you guys prefer this anyway. Again, I mean, realistically, the first three picks are going to be more or less the same. Usually, what I'm finding is, again, you want to have like neutral picks at the beginning. You don't want to set up a full team comp yet. Good neutral picks right now are pretty obvious, so I'm not gonna go into an RTA lesson with that. Pick the first neutral picks first, and then the slots 3 to 5 is gonna be your counter picks, and you gotta stay on top of it, of course. Be a bit predictive. Kind of assume that if you're going too much single target, they will pop a Spectenny, so you want to predict those things. So he did leave the Solitarian, which is really interesting. Because Rylet is very weak to Solitaria, especially the buffed Solitaria. In the past, he would have arguably said that it's not that good, but like right now, like Violet or Rylet just cannot do anything versus Solitaria. But you guys have seen me use Solitary quite a bit, so I'm not gonna talk about that too much. I think even some of my regular viewers were convinced that they had to buy her in the coin shop because that's how good she is. That turn 1 stun is very good. I was mentioning this before, I think maybe in a previous video or on a stream, that the heroes right now having like a turn, like a Solitaria pretty much, like being able to stun on turn 1 is actually very good. This is why I assessed that Ludwig is actually pretty good, but surprisingly we didn't really see him too much. I don't think we see a lot of the new buffed heroes, to be honest. They're not meta, they kind of work, but they're not super important.
I will shape my own life.
So yeah, killing off the Emma Kaurika is a pretty good play here. My Rimuru that hasn't used his S3, I don't know if he noticed that though, I'm not quite sure. But I did hold it because the S3 without an attack buff, without enough buffs, was just not enough to kill Hwayoung. Or it was risky that it wouldn't kill Hwayoung.
I just wanna go home.
But Spectenny without an FCC is very volatile against Solitaria, especially Solitaria on the F10 artifact, which is what I am using. She won't survive too long unless she's on lifesteal, but lifesteal is not the most popular Spectenny at the moment. The defense break is really good here, especially that 2-turn. Again, they are fully buffed, so Rimuru, and they already lost their immunity turn if they had immunity, so Rimuru is really good there to set up that defense break. And this is very safe again, that Rylot cannot get his focus anyway, so it wouldn't matter. To be honest, I could have S2'd there. I don't know what I was holding it for. Could have S2'd on the Emma Kaurika to get that barrier.
How long do you think you can last?
I never fight a losing battle. If I am to someday return, I cannot stop here.
This one I'm cutting straight to it because this one was just a funny one. I didn't think that they would spend too much time on this, but you just will look at the results. So this is Emperor player, but it is pretty early season. We're mid-season right now, so Emperor players does not necessarily mean that they have, like, you know, insane gear. Gear is RNG after all. But this was just a funny one, so it was a quick one, no commentary on this. Assuming the Vildred is not triple S, the Payra and the Ran should have had some advantage, but yeah, he just yielded right away. This was more of a gear flex thing, not a strategy. There you go, cut out. So right here we have double green. I have a lot of good heroes set in place. FCC was his ban, so taking the A Robbie on my side is very strong. A Robbie is kind of hard to use into FCC, so him being the one that banned it, it was very obvious that if he's not gonna select it, I'm gonna take the A Robbie. Right here, his Lionheart Surmi is pretty good as the last pick because of Solitary and both Emma Crozet. So really, Milim is a pretty powerful DPS into this one. It does all depend what he banned or what he planned on banning. If I pick Milim, I have to ban Rimuru because Rimuru can either steal the buff, or he could just one-shot her depending on who the Amelia chose to take. So this, I don't really do a lot of this type of drafting, at least never in the previous seasons, but again, with Tatsuni's guidance, I started thinking more of like kind of these type of comps, support, and sometimes it's okay with even just one DPS. Although I would still consider Solitary a decent DPS. Just not in this fight because they have a healer. Outside of Solitaria landing debuffs all the time, like the AoE ones, Amelia with 2 DPS is generally like strong against Solitaria, but again, Solitaria is just a very, very strong hero right now. With really good CC, and then with F10E artifact, good damage, and then hard to kill because of the stealth and the barrier.
I'll do anything for her. With my authority as mediator, I will right what is wrong.
今なら許してあげるから
So the win condition here obviously is that Milim is protected. Milim also has self-heal. Milim has evasion. And so I don't think this Lionheart was on Symbol. Actually, I believe it was on Durandal, which is not... It's definitely not her best in slot. And arguably there's a couple that are pretty good. I don't think Durandal is that good on her.
くらいにはなるか
Mine is on Symbol, just for fights like this, just for Rylets, just for anything that can have a dodge, or even if I'm blind, which a lot of heroes can inflict blind, like Archdemon Shadow and stuff like that. Even though if Archdemon seals you, you're pretty much doomed. But there's a lot of blind heroes, and since Fire Charlotte is not that like prominent anymore, I felt that Symbol of Unity is the strongest on Lionheart, especially on lifesteal, because then you get the extra damage for the lifesteal itself. So this was a really annoying pivoting point for me, just not being able to strip that Lionheart Syrmia. My ML Cowrick at this point is on speed set and ER set, and I have it so that if I toggle the imprint release and the imprint concentration, I can get 100, slightly a bit higher than 100 ER, so to protect me from like the key saves resetting and stuff like that. But this fight and other fights, like, you know, trying to strip a Rimuru or trying to strip anyone, made me want to go down a path where I wanted an ML Cowrick on hit set instead of a resist set, and honestly just take the chances or draft better against people who could still skill reset. So that was my plan. Anyone who has a skill reset with high effectiveness, the effect resistance on him wouldn't be that good anyway. But the full strip that he provides on the S2, I feel, is a lot more influential than someone being able to reset him, even if it's RNG. Right? So like an Athletica or something like that maybe would have high effectiveness. You could reset him even if I have 100 ER. So I felt that the effectiveness, which will be a build later on, I'll mention that. I don't believe I do it in this video though. In the next video, I have swapped him fully to effectiveness, and it's more consistent. I like it a lot better. Asia players, predominantly I believe, love running high ER Rimuru, like 100 ER. And so like if I'm at 0 effectiveness, I can't full strip that Rimuru, which is kind of annoying sometimes. Because like if he has anti-crit buff or something like that, it's really hard to kill.
Feel my soul. I won't fall.
My turn now.
So yeah, this fight is quite a long one. But you know, there's some RNG aspect to it. So Milim with her passive buff and the evasion, she has 70% evasion, and then plus I have ML Closet protecting, and then I buffed with the ML Closet cleanse, anti-crit buff and defense buff late. I did hold that. I don't know while I was talking if you were noticing it, but I did hold that skill for this scenario, because I knew that I can't stop like keeping that Lionheart Syrmia from getting the defense buff, so I had to kind of preserve her and pace out like my EHP. This was a pretty clutch fight at the end of the day. I think this was it wasn't really luck, because I could not really debuff that Lionheart. It was a decent draft on both sides. Maybe the luck part is just the evasion.
I'll do anything for her. Allow me to
So I do this the second time and still resist. So
Take you all
it just bothered me. But now with the higher effectiveness ML Kaorik, I am able to strip Surmia's easier. I'm still able to strip the strip the Rimuru and stuff like that much easier. I don't know why he killed off Solitaria there. That was probably the one he didn't want to kill, because he should have kept my extra proc happening, since Solitaria wasn't doing anything versus that Amelia. And like I said, Solitaria is not super great into Amelia, unless you have high effect and you're just debuffing her. So this one's anti-cleave. So I think anti-cleave fights or people who cleave into me, I'm gonna include them because they're quicker, and also I think versing cleave is one of the hardest things, to be honest, in my opinion. Like, you can say like, oh yeah, just go Omega Bulk, but I've still died to cleavers when I go Omega Bulk. So hopefully including these will be helpful for you as well. Just like keep in mind of like which heroes I'm using for anti-cleave. Hopefully you don't use that against me if you face me, but just for yourself as well. Like, you want to build some knights, you want to build ML Crozet, Holy Sacrifice is the play. A Robbie is good if they don't choose her. And depending on what they choose, if they go like Ran, Peyra, Edda or whatever, you know, Slam a Violet. So there's kind of obvious counters. I chose RB here because, I mean, RB is pretty good. The Sid can double kill pretty easily, but usually, like, if you're killing, you get Rem into the demon mode quicker, which I guess wouldn't really help too much here, except to get stunned by Peyra, so that she's shut off. So there's in this anti-cleave, it's more of like he has a lot of targets he wants to kill off first, right? A lot of targets would benefit from getting one shot, obviously, but he can't choose that many. So the RB forces him to waste like a full Sid turn in order to deal with it, right? Because he had no other way to deal with RB except Sid. Because a well-built Sid with an attack buff and speed buff, you could probably melt the Rem, probably even kill off like the A Robbie. My A Robbie's not on proof or Draco. So like realistically, the RB was a really good way to just deal with Sid and squishy heroes in general. The Landy was missing some damage there. Even though it was attack down, it also had an attack buff. So both those cancelled out, and it had the defense pen, but it didn't seem like it did any damage. So there may have been a gear diff for this one. I did get lucky here. I mean, he did the right play. He didn't use the S3 because Rem would just maybe full wipe the whole team, and then also get more heal. But Rem is generally a pretty annoying anti-cleave hero, unless she's asleep, of course. So yeah, if you notice the drafting here, so Ruel in the previous seasons I've just like never drafted. With Rimuru and A Robbie so prominent, Ruel is pretty decent. She does struggle against like Landies, so very aggro comps, AoE. She does really struggle with that.
Do not interfere.
But the ML Kaorik, Ruel, well, Lionheart, Surmi, and Ruel is very good into Rimuru. So Kayron Showcase number 2. This one I don't think that I made a false play here. So this draft was like, this doesn't matter, I could just draft the last pick. Because again, once you have some neutral setup, you can start counter picking, and if your counter picks are ahead, then you can always just ban the last pick, and you'll most likely win. But of course that does take a lot of practice, and it took me a ton of practice, and I don't always get it right. I don't think anyone is perfect, has perfect perception. Although a lot of the legend players are really good at this. They'll be able to read you and be ahead of your drafting. And that's usually when you lose, like aside from RNG. So right here, boosting up the Landy would make a lot of sense, since that gives the full team protection, boost, and I'm already damaged. So there was no... Wait, what? Okay, never mind. He went... Okay, in my opinion, I would have went for the Landy. He would have got the speed buff on the Rimuru, full team. I wouldn't have chose that one for sure. It would have like did some damage to my Ruel. So yeah, I don't rehearse these. I'm basically watching and kind of remembering it.
Fortune will favor us.
Oh, it didn't have enough buffs, I think, right? I don't think that's enough buffs to one shot.
I'll do anything for her.
So here I'm just again knowing Landy, knowing how she works. You want to count the buffs that you have.
Shall we go?
I made sure I'm not using the S3 too early because Landy will get the full focus right away. Or Fighting Spirit, I think. Fighting Spirit.
I'll shatter. Your pride. For Felicia. You didn't see this coming.
Did hit the Kayron there. So on the next turn, because Landy is ready to do the S3 at the full Fighting Spirit with the Death Pen. Well, I mean, it's already Death Pen, but with the full Fighting Spirit,
There is no salvation for
I knew that I could use the attack buff. So for this one, I didn't want to do attack buff on Kayron since I wouldn't be able to one-shot the Rimuru. Do that, I don't have an attack buff. So doing this to break the skill null, get the blind chance was all really good. This was also really fortunate as well. I knew that I would trigger him no matter what here, but just didn't want to give Landy an attack buff on that next turn. I didn't want him to steal Kayron's attack buff. It didn't matter who I hit. If Kayron attack buffed, he would have stole it. It was just fortunate though, he did cut a bit, so he lost his immortal early.
Never fight a losing battle. It is my
And yeah, there was no harm doing this now
to restore balance.
to buff up Kayron,
Leave it to me.
since Landy would have got to full Fighting Spirit anyway.
Let me show you my secret weapon.
This was a bit of RNG, as she missed 3 of my targets, and especially Ruel, who was my lowest HP. But right now, Landy is like ready to, you know, to go full out because everyone is buffed on my team. So she's going to be able to just keep cycling that S3.
I'm sensing
Warhorn, very, very good. And then how his S1 is, he's just so freaking broken though. Is it how his S1 works? Just 15% CR boost to anyone who is the next in CR. So that S1 turn is perfect for Ruel. I think I end up just protecting herself. It just makes the most sense because I could get another heal off on the S1, presuming my Lionheart doesn't die. And Kayron does more damage with his HP low anyway, so you wouldn't really want to protect him. It wouldn't matter because that 1 immortality, well, maybe it could have lasted another turn with the invincibility, but even if you extended it, you would lose the immortality with the invincibility at the same turn. So it was very low value to do anything outside of herself because she was the one that was going to die. Anyways, I think that Rimuru definitely asked to way too early, try to one-shot that Ruel too early. Because, I mean, he could have done a lot of things with it. He could have stole the invincibility, could have forced me to waste my... I don't know, like... I won't be judging how he plays because I make mistakes all the time. But the Landy was pretty squishy there, so once the Landy was gone, it was pretty easy. Like a lot of the threat is gone because Rimuru is like he bursts and then he's like asleep for a while. Especially if his Rimuru's not full damage, he wouldn't be able to be enough threat. Now he's really just trying to cycle so he could get the S2. This was good as well. So this is I wonder if this is my effectiveness Cowrick already. I'm not quite sure actually. But either way, like yeah, this damage is good.
if I am to someday return, I cannot stop.
Yeah, so this is the This is gonna be the last fight for a while. Again, I'm pre-banning Hwayoung right now with decent success rate. So this will probably be the last time you see it. I think this is the last fight in this video. But it's a really, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I do pre-ban her or want to pre-ban her more often now. It's just she's so broken. She's just absolutely broken. Cause honestly, I think I lose this fight. But it's just if Hwayoung wasn't this broken, like if Hwayoung wasn't this broken, I lost. Basically. Opsig is slightly risky here. I knew that going in. I don't really like picking Opsig that early, but sometimes she's needed because if I banned or picked correctly, she would have been a force ban on his side because he had FCC. But he started picking some like Uber DPS and Kayron usually being pretty fast.
If you want me to.
So I do believe his S3 silences, because I think my Lionheart silences here, right? Yeah. So the very fact that my Opsig was in immunity was pretty useful here because I could do a couple things. I could push people back. I can try to one-shot even though I had immunity, which is again kind of not good because of Rimuru. You see me, I almost misclicked that in terms of the timeout. It was better as S3. That was my debate, but I almost went for the S2. I'm glad I didn't because it was the right play. It was the right play not to go for the S2. S3 was definitely the play.
Allow me to purify.
Should I warm up a little?
Yeah, so right here I'm just like, okay, my Surmi is slower than the RB. If I kill the RB, my Surmi is dead. But the Kayron hasn't done his S2. He hasn't done the reset skill, which can strip, and that's too scary to deal with. I'd rather just keep rather just sacrifice her for this one, so that Hwayoung remains immunitied, attack buffed, and then I have the barrier to be safe.
I'm sensing corrupt energy.
Yeah, and then the push on the ML Kayron S1 is just too insane. It's too good. A couple lucky things happening here. No Alexa's proc, and I couldn't even believe it myself, but crit rate not 100% on the Vildred. Because if it was, my ML Kayron would have been dead and I would have lost. So it's a bit of a gear diff here.
I never fight a losing battle. With my authority
So here I'm looking at the FCC's there, and my speed is faster than all of his DPS. So I can cut to that 50% with the S3 and then get a turn. So I keep that attack buff up on Hwayoung, which is vital because I knew that he was going to die before Hwayoung. We have a green hero versus Hwayoung, and Hwayoung's like barrier is like really thick if you keep the attack buff up. So it was definitely the play there to do the S3 cut and then S2. It is just pretty annoying too, because like if you have a ML Kayron with 1 DPS, you're always pushing that DPS, and especially Hwayoung self pushes too. It's just so broken. Hwayoung. This is why she's pre-banned. Alright, so that's it for this one. I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.